thank you everyone that are on the call and on the live broadcast today. Thank you for joining the Amazon Ads live broadcast. So you can find all of our playbacks on YouTube. So considering that it's April now, we've done about 3 different live webinars. Starting with introduction to Amazon Ads, and then subsequently we did a bit of a keyword series. So today we will talk about more of a full funnel, launch strategy to help you drive traffic, assuming that you're going to launch a new ASIN. So we all know, Prime Day is coming up soon. It's a great chance for us to accelerate our sales. And a lot of sellers always intend, to really capture this peak season to launch any kind of new products, new ASINs. We get a lot of very frequent questions. For example, should I launch a new ASIN on Prime Day itself? Which is not a wrong thinking, but usually we also recommend actually sellers to launch ahead of Prime Day, to launch before Prime Day, up to 8 to 12 weeks before Prime Day, so that you can gather a bit of data in terms of what keywords are working for you, what advertising strategy is working for you, make adjustments to your bids and budgets before the actual Prime Day itself, which is usually just about 2 days. So essentially, today I will cover, the recommended kind of a new ASIN launch, ideally right before Prime Day, or what we call 8 to 12 weeks before Prime Day, so that you are well prepared for the actual Prime Day itself. So without further ado, we'll get started. Oops. Yeah. Yes. So hold on. So yes, essentially our agenda today is that we will really want to plan what is the feasible goals for each of our seller stage. So I understand, different sellers are with us on the call. There are new sellers that are very, very experienced sellers. So we can actually take a look at, what are some of the feasible goals that you can set depending on the stage that you are at. For example, have you already sold for many, many years, or you're actually just getting started? How much to allocate for your bids and your budgets? That's what we will recommend. And then, of course, secondly, we will also cover the new ASIN ads structure. So how to structure a campaign on your campaign manager. That's something we will kind of give you a guide over. And then, of course, we'll cover the recap. So also just to remind everyone that we don't share the PowerPoint slide to you after the call. You will be sent a playback link. And you can also continuously play the playback on our YouTube channel, which is Amazon SEA Global Selling. And you can actually pause and play any single time that you've forgotten something. So do check us out on YouTube. So apart from ads, there's also other topics that are non-ads related, for example, FBA related. Yeah. So let's get started. Essentially, we like to kind of guide sellers based on your product lifecycle and how to really analyze what stage your product lifecycle is at and what your goals should be. So this is coming from speaking to a lot of different sellers that we meet in the seller meetup. I would say most of the sellers always ask me, I just launched a new ASIN and then I just started my advertising and I realized that my ACoS is super high. I just advertised for 1 week, my ACoS is very high. So there are a few issues with this, because usually, for example, for a new seller that just launched your very first campaign, initially your goal should be something different. It should be targeting impressions or targeting growing your traffic, right? You want to really maximize the brand exposure for your product in the beginning phase, rather than lowering your ACoS in the beginning, because there are a few factors affecting ACoS. So this is a guide in terms of how to set the feasible goal at the stage that you are at. So we can actually think of it in terms of this kind of product lifecycle analysis, and you want to custom how you operate your adjustments, your advertising adjustments based on your product lifecycle. So of course, at the beginning of every seller's and your product lifecycle, right? It's the starting period where you've just listed and you've just finished optimizing your listing and you're kickstarting the first advertising campaign for that product. The goal here really should be to gain awareness. And then what is related to awareness, right? You want as many, for example, American customers to see your new product as possible. So here the KPI will differ. Your KPI will essentially be, for example, impressions, rather than, for example, trying to lower your ACoS as much as possible. So that's the starting period, essentially you want to keep in mind, like, what is your true goal? It's really to explode your product, right? Gain awareness so that people start recognizing your brand and they start recognizing your product. Secondly, we move on to the growth period, right? It is essentially where you really want to try to kind of increase the number of clicks and the number of orders, trying to accelerate the sales for your product. And here, you want to emphasize on how to make your product stand out and be different, right? What are the keywords that work for you? What are the special long tail keywords that are relevant for you? For example, we can all sell makeup remover, right? But there are millions of makeup removers available on Amazon. So what is the difference in your product? What is the competitive advantage of your makeup remover, for example? So you want to find targeted, precise long tail keywords, right? For example, it is gentle, it is organic, right? It is non-harsh for sensitive skin makeup remover. This kind of long tail keywords that are unique to you, you will want to emphasize on your product difference, and you can do it across the different type of ad campaigns. You can do it on sponsored products. You can adjust your listing to reflect those keywords, in terms of your keywords. Or you can even create, a product-led sponsored brand video, which really kind of like, shoots beautifully how your makeup remover is gentle on the skin, for example. So this is how you actually emphasize your product difference across multiple different ad products. So this is your growth period. And then, of course, over time, once you've advertised and hit stable sales, you reach a mature stage. So once, for a lot of experienced sellers, to remind our experienced sellers that you need to continuously maintain loyalty. So for example, even using the makeup remover example, how do you retarget your audiences? So the makeup remover might run out eventually, right? It will run out maybe every month or every 2 months. So within that every month or every 2 month window, you might want to, for example, adopt remarketing on sponsored display. So this is how you actually, kind of do marketing as well on your mature stage. And then, of course, some products will always maintain at this mature stage. It becomes your cash cow ASIN. But of course, there are some ASINs that you want to slowly, deprecate over time if it's not performing, or you want to do a brand relaunch. So for certain ASINs in the what we call, a decline or recession phase, you want to clear inventory. What should we do? So there are different strategies with regards to this, and I'll cover this today. So essentially, how we actually kind of take a look across this phase is really doing it almost like a matrix and a graph. So in the starting period, how to assess whether your product is in the starting period? Of course, you will see here that once you've just launched a new ASIN, usually you will find that, of course, sales is slow to pick up. You've just launched, right? Essentially, you haven't secured enough ratings and reviews. So of course, when customers come onto your ads, they click on your listing, it's likely that sales will take a while to pick up, which is why, for example, we recommend you do the Vine program, to get some ratings and reviews kickstarted. But essentially, it's normal, and this is why you'll see that customer acquisition cost, or A cost, in the starting growth period is likely to be high, because A cost is advertising cost divided by your ad sales, right? So essentially, at the beginning phase, while you're trying to grow, with still below 15 reviews, for example, it's oftentimes that your A cost will be likely to be quite high. For example, for the first 3 months of advertising, oftentimes we like to remind sellers that it's okay if your beginning phase you don't generate a profit, because you're still trying to gun for impressions. And you have slightly low competitiveness in the beginning phase, which is why it's important to really optimize your listing. And it's important to focus on metrics like impressions. So you want to ensure that, for example, you are aggressively growing your impressions week over week, so that essentially you're trying to put your product and expose it to as many eyeballs as possible in your starting period. And then your second period, where slowly you start to accumulate sales, right, over the first 3 to 6 months to the first year, you're accumulating sales slowly. So you finally start to see a pickup in your sales, right? Once your impressions increase, you're likely to reach the people that are looking for maybe the makeup remover, right? And then once you get a certain amount of ratings and reviews, of a good quality, you'll notice that your sales start to pick up, right? And your profit starts to pick up. Your competitiveness also increases in the growth period. So at the growth period, it is where essentially, you really want to see how to optimize, for example, your click-through rate and your conversion rate. So you always want to optimize your keywords in your listing in this period. Ensure that you continuously do competitive benchmarks, and then subsequently, again, constantly improve. And it's also the great opportunity for you to adopt different kind of solutions, right? It doesn't have to be ads. It can even be free brand products. So for example, using your Amazon store, using Amazon posts to your advantage, essentially to really help you drive traffic to any kind of brand touch points that you have on Amazon. And then subsequently, in the mature stage, what you want to do is that, you'll notice that at this point, you're getting very high organic orders as well, right? Maybe you can take a look at metrics like PACOS, where you essentially see that, you are getting more and more orders that are organic. You don't have to run as many ads, for example, but you get good steady orders. Your sales is peaking, essentially, and this is where you're reaching the stable, mature phase. Here, for example, for certain categories, it's very important to retarget audiences, especially if you're in, for example, like beauty categories, or, for example, maybe like baby categories where, moms or, beauty users, they, for example, repurchase quite frequently. So here it's important to maintain loyalty, repurchase. It's a good chance for you to actually launch new ASINs at this stage as well, for you to find the next bestseller. And also, essentially, we also encourage you to also protect, for example, protect your hero ASINs, right? These are your best-selling ASINs that have given you sales for a long period of time. Here, we will advise sellers, for example, to start adopting sponsored display, where you want to basically protect your hero ASINs with your other ASINs as well, essentially to defend your product listing page and prevent competitors from coming to steal your traffic. And then, for example, in retention phase, how do you minimally invest in ads, but still be able to clear inventory? So that's how we identify, for example, product lifecycle analysis across the different periods of your product lifecycle. Right. So you'll see that, especially at the beginning phase, you'll understand, like, this is the really kind of like the rhythm of a new product launch. Essentially, in the starting phase, feel free to take a screenshot if you want to be reminded of, what kind of metrics to really take a look at and your action plan. So in the beginning of the starting period, essentially, here you want to, we always call it expand traffic, but here what it means is that you really want to focus on something called impressions and clicks. Especially on impression, you really want to expand the amount of people that are looking at your listing, going to your Amazon store, and you want to achieve more impressions for your product. So here, a lot of sellers always come to me with quite a few questions. So for example, they'll tell me, actually my campaigns are not spending. So I've actually put like some budget behind my campaign, but somehow it is not spending fully my budget. That's one issue. Secondly, it's that, I actually don't have enough impressions, or I'm not getting any clicks, not getting any orders. So what is happening, right? Here, number one biggest problem I usually see in the starting period is to take a look at your budget. So when you set up the campaign, you need to set a daily budget. Please check that your daily budget is a minimum of 10 to 20 USD. So I have encountered many Singaporean sellers, in one-on-one consultations, that they put like a $2 daily budget. I understand that if you're starting, you're a bit hesitant, you're a bit scared to spend, but realistically, if you take a look at Product Opportunity Explorer, you'll notice that for most keywords, our usual CPC, of course, it varies between categories, right? But usually our CPC averages, between like 50 cents to $1, right? Of course, there are categories with very high CPC, very low CPC, but most of the time it's, for example, between 50 cents to $1 per click. That's the cost of every click, right? And you are charged based on the click. So if you're setting a $2 daily budget, the max, for example, kind of number of clicks you're going to get is 4 clicks a day, which is too low. It's too low. And, conversion rate, click-through rate, of course, it's like you need to get more impressions so that you get more clicks, right? However, if you're limiting yourself with your budget, you only set $2 per day. Once it spends, your ads actually turn off. meaning people don't see your advertising going live. So here, that's where, essentially you need to start stepping up and increasing your budget to a minimum of 10 to 20 USD daily budget to basically secure enough impressions. Then number two is also possibly why you are, for example, you notice that you're not spending. Usually a lot of sellers tell me, like, my campaign, I set $10 to $20 daily budget, but my campaign is not spending. I'm not spending the full amount. When you take a look at the overall month, you're not spending, for example, 10 times 30, which is $300. You notice at the end of the month, you didn't spend that full $300. Why? Most likely your bids are too low. So, the advertising system on Amazon is actually an auction-based advertising system, meaning that, for example, if I'm bidding on the keyword makeup remover, of course there are, like maybe many other competitors, beauty competitors in the industry that also bid for a makeup remover. Maybe the cost per click, and here it's important to take a look at cost per click to see what are people bidding. So you need to ensure that your bid has to be higher, for example, 10 to 20% higher than CPC. So CPC is the average 7-day winning bid for that keyword. So most likely, for example, right, maybe just as an example, right, for example, L'Oreal is bidding 80 cents for that keyword. And then this another separate brand is Huiqi separate brand is bidding, for example, 90 cents for that keyword. However, if I'm placing a 50 cents bid for that keyword, then of course you're not going to win the bid because it's an option, right? Of course your listing quality also affects the winning bid. However, if you have a very optimized listing, but you're actually cutting yourself short with super low bids, that's why your ad budget is not spending. So you need to compare your bid versus CPC to get a perspective of where you are standing. When you are setting up the campaign, Amazon also recommends a bid for you. So it's important to put either the recommended bid or 10 to 20% higher than the recommended bid, because that's informed by Amazon systems or based on historically what are people bidding for that keyword. So use that as a guiding point, and then of course take a look at CPC once you've launched the campaign already to see where you are standing versus the competition in terms of your bids. And then of course, the last but not least, for the starting period, we also encourage sellers to take a look at your ad placement, meaning where is your ad showing up? Is it showing up on the search results page, or is it showing up in the product detail page? We will cover the ads console walkthrough later, but essentially you will want to see if, for example, top of search, a homepage placement, is your product appearing on top of search, especially if you're using keyword targeting. And you actually want to see if you can implement a bid modifier. So basically increase your bid a little bit for top of search, essentially to help you kickstart that growth and kickstart your impressions on the homepage. Secondly, we go into the growth period. So here, growth period, right, meaning you're starting to see impressions increase. For example, it's increasing 15% every single week, right? Here, you really want to start optimizing your click-through rate, meaning your ad can show up on the search results page, but are people clicking on your ad? Are people clicking onto your listing and actually buying them? So there's clicks and orders, right? So what should we do here in this growth period? So you notice that you have some sales growing. You want to catch the momentum, especially. So you will want to continue using your sponsored product ads as well as branding ads. So they can be sponsored brand, for example, product collection, or it can be sponsored brand video, essentially to really call out, either your brand proposition or your product proposition. So there are two ways, and there's so many ways to play with the video, for example, right? You can actually call out, maybe yours is more of a sustainable brand or organic, driven kind of a brand. You can differentiate yourself in that sense. Otherwise, you can actually, even shoot a product-led video. For example, you're offering this makeup remover on top of how many other features. You can call out the product features, or you can even do a product collection type of a video, right, showcasing your entire portfolio. Maybe the makeup remover, you have 3 different variants, right? You have gentle, you have antibacterial, you have something for super sensitive skin, for example. So this is how you can actually really start to differentiate your product, capture impressions, but also capture that conversion as well. So here is important for you to ensure, like to adopt, for example, an additional sponsored brand ad to secure that top of search placement or middle of search placement. You can also ensure enough ads budget, again, to sustain that sales velocity. And then, of course, then you want to stabilize your product rankings. So here, you want to be able to create a hero keyword list. So this keyword list is helping you to generate super high impressions, high clicks, high orders, and that's where essentially you build a keyword list that is helping you to grow really quickly. And of course, then once you've achieved this, you also hit the mature stage in terms of, you are at the peak of your sales already. So essentially, what should you do here? Here, you want to be aware, essentially you want to be aware of your competition, right? You want to adjust your product pricing. You want to, for example, control your ads budget. Of course, at some point you can actually start to relook at ACoS. So once you reach a peak number of sales, you can actually start to see, for example, what keywords are not working for you or is generating very, very high ACoS for you. And here, then you can start, for example, using negative keyword targeting or budget caps to essentially control your ACoS, because you've reached a high number of impressions, a high number of organic sales, right? And you want to start to maintain your ACoS especially. And here, the metrics you look at is, of course, ROAS, like return on your ad spend. And again, always try to maintain and stabilize your product ranking. And then, of course, certain products, they start declining. Over here, what you want to do is to, of course, readjust your ad bidding, right? You don't want it to become too aggressive. You don't want to, for example, use dynamic bids up and down. For example, in recession phase, you want to start doing lower bidding. You can do dynamics bid down only, or you can start lowering your bids slowly. Or explore, for example, product bundles or product pricing, and to clear the backlog of your inventory. Yeah. So here is of course a case that we can kind of take a look at. So you can just see that this product, for example, we've listed this product, and the pictures they haven't. For example, you'll see that between 2021, the first month of March, you will see that sales goes up and down, up and down. And then, of course, suddenly sales start like stabilizing towards the end, right? Blue line indicate your orders, and then orange line indicates your ACoS. So you'll see that, of course, at the beginning phase, right, this product was just listed. You'll notice, of course, ACoS starts off really high. That's because there's no sales like at the beginning, right, when you just launched. So essentially, it's normal, for example, when you just launch your product for ACoS to be very high. But once the sales start to pick up, ACoS naturally will decrease. So it's important to get that and capture that momentum of the sales increase. So at the starting period, your product's just been listed. You need to ensure your picture, your product detail page, your product descriptions are really strong enough versus your competitors. There's, of course, like not have any much of a review. So there are less than 15 reviews. This is why you'll see that sales at the beginning will take a while to pick up. And then, of course, the growth period kicks in, right? Once you've optimized your picture, your product descriptions, your listing, your hero images are very, very good quality, very high resolution. You've implemented your A+ content, and you actually start securing, for example, more than 15 reviews. It actually gives people confidence to start. Hey, like I clicked on this ad, there are high quality reviews, slightly more than 15. It's higher than 4.3 stars. You'll notice that like orders will start coming in because your listing looks like a complete legitimate listing that people are confident to buy in. So this is the growth momentum that you want to start capturing. Ensure that you are bidding honestly, aggressively, putting enough ad budget to basically capture that growth momentum. And then, of course, you enter kind of the stable order era, right? It's not a new product, right? And the existing ads plan is effective. So ideally, it will sustain at this mature phase for a long time. However, for certain products, where it's nearing the end of the cycle, there is a need to clear inventory. We will cover that separately. But essentially, this is how a product life cycle often looks like, right? So at the beginning, you'll notice high ACoS. I know a lot of sellers get very scared and then they turn it off straight away. But it's normal because you have lower sales at the beginning of a new product launch or, as a new seller. And here you want to invest, still continue investing to get that impression so that you accumulate enough sales and enough reviews over time. Yeah, so across this different phase, you want to be able to set achievable goals. So at the starting phase, as I mentioned, it's not recommended to just purely look at ACoS because it's a misleading metric, right? You have very little sales. Of course, your advertising spend is going to be a bit more. However, in your starting period, it's important to focus on your impressions and your clicks. And your goal at the starting period is to increase impressions. When you go onto Ads Console, you want to look at impressions and see whether for your new product, you have been increasing, for example, your impressions by 15% in the next month, right? And then subsequently, we can take different actions to troubleshoot in this different phase. Secondly, in the growth phase, what we want to really focus on is, for example, click-through rate, which is clicks divided by impressions, meaning, right, you can actually blast your ads onto Amazon. However, are people clicking on your listing, right? It shows that whether you're, for example, firstly, the keywords you're targeting is correct. Secondly, it also shows whether, for example, your hero image is actually good enough. Is it generating enough incentive for people to click? And then, of course, then we also take a look at conversion rate. Once they click onto your product listing, do they finally buy it? A lot of factors, right? Especially ratings, reviews, your product listing, your A+ content. And then in the growth phase, we can also take a look at return on investment. So what are some of the keywords and what are some of the placements that are working for you? We want to optimize, what is working, we put more money behind. What is not working, we start, slowly negating it, negate the keywords, or slowly start turning off campaigns that are not working for you. So the objective here is to improve the click consideration, right? So in the next 4 weeks, for example, you want to set a goal, for example, that your click-through rate for your keyword or your product placement campaigns for your growth stage products to be increasing by 20% week over week, for example. And then in the mature phase, metrics to really take a look at is, of course, to maintain a good conversion rate, maintain the ACoS or your ROAS, and then, of course, always taking a look at your sales, right? Of course, increasing conversion to purchase. And then in the mature phase, this is where we recommend sellers then to start looking at their ACoS, to start seeing where is the ineffective keywords or ineffective strategies that are not working, then we start cutting those. So essentially, we can take a look at starting and growth period first. Usually in the beginning to the growth stage, there are two key problems, right? Definitely number one, for new starting ASIN launches as well as new sellers, it's always low impressions, right? I mentioned earlier, if you notice that you're getting low impressions that are not growing, right? For example, you've only gotten like 1,000 over impressions, super low, and then you notice that it's been 2 weeks and it didn't increase drastically. Here, it really means that number one, you have to increase your bids, right? You have to increase and ensure that it's at least 10% above the actual CPC to win, the impression served to buyers. And then secondly, you want to take a look at how to optimize based on the placement. So I'll cover it in the Ads Console later, but essentially you want to take a look at where your ad is appearing. Is it appearing mostly in top of search, product pages, or rest of search? And then you adjust the strategy accordingly. Number 3 is to also change the bidding type. So for example, you have been using, for example, down only bidding, dynamics bid down only. It means that it's a very conservative bidding strategy, right? Meaning for placements, Amazon can lower, if I'm bidding $1 for that keyword, for makeup remover as the keyword, when it's not likely to convert to a sale, it'll be lowered, right? Lower down than $1. So the max you always bid is $1. But what if you look at CPC and you notice that CPC cost per click for the word makeup remover is actually more than $1? Then you either increase your bid or you actually change your bidding strategy to either fixed bids or up and down. Essentially, you want to place a slightly higher bid versus your CPC. Up and down is essentially dynamic. You let Amazon adjust it up and downwards by max 100%, lower 100%. Fixed bids is fixed bids. Essentially, I just want to pay $1.20, for example, for all my bids. Then that is also one strategy. But essentially, you just want to check versus CPC whether you are higher than that to win the impression served to buyers. That's to solve low impressions. Of course, the other big problem is that maybe you're getting a lot of impressions, right? People are interested in your product. So maybe I'm selling a makeup remover. I noticed that my impressions are growing, but somehow I'm not getting clicks, right? Like, why am I not getting clicks, for example? So it could be that number one, your keyword targeting as well as your product targeting is not optimized enough. So it could be that, for example, I'm selling a makeup remover, but one of the keywords that I'm targeting could be makeup. And that is very, very broad, right? Like makeup can mean so many different type of meanings, and it's actually less relevant or it's too broad of a keyword. So here you can actually optimize. You can actually, for example, lower your bid for keywords such as makeup, but then you notice that certain other keywords that are much more relevant, for example, sensitive skin makeup remover is generating much more clicks for you. Here, then you want to find this kind of long tail keywords that are directly related to the product that you're selling, and then essentially start optimizing your keyword strategy, optimizing your product targeting strategy. So one reason, for example, why product targeting might not work and might not generate clicks for you could be that you are targeting products that are like too hard to compete with. Essentially, you just want to find products that you have a competitive advantage over, right? So if I'm selling a makeup remover and I just launched or I'm starting to launch this product, I want to target products that are, for example, maybe higher price than me. So I have price advantage over, or I have to target products that are, maybe less effective, right? Like they have less features. They are not targeted towards sensitive skin. My product has, different kind of natural ingredients, different kind of like no nasty chemicals kind of a proposition. So you can choose your competitive targets properly so that you improve the click-through rate. So essentially, you want to optimize the targeting strategy for low click-through rate problems. And for low conversion rate, essentially, usually has to do with your listing. So you need to check, for example, if your listing has become outdated. You need to take a look at your competition, whether they have suddenly introduced, a makeup remover that is much more improved, right? And they probably introduce new features or a new kind of a price promotion. That's something that you want to take a look at as well to improve your conversion. So at the starting phase, the tools that you can leverage, right? How to grow the impressions. Number one is, of course, Amazon Brand Analytics. You can go to the search query performance or top search terms. You can take a look at, what are some of the currently very big brands. For example, what are some of the very big brands in makeup remover? And then essentially, we kind of see what are some of the top keywords that they are targeting. And we can actually try to grab impressions from those. We can also take a look at our search term report. So we always recommend sellers to do automatic ads. You want to download search term reports to essentially find, your top kind of search terms and essentially optimize behind those as well. And in the growth period, again, as usual, we want to take a look at Amazon Brand Analytics for the search query performance. So in the search query performance, you can actually see, for different type of keywords, right? Makeup remover, organic makeup remover, sensitive skin makeup remover. You can see the amount of impressions, the amount of clicks, the amount of add to carts, as well as the conversions. If you haven't checked out this feature on Amazon Brand Analytics, I highly encourage our sellers to look at it to really kind of see what kind of search keywords are working for you as a tool. And then, of course, in the mature phase, for example, once you've launched already sponsored brands, there is actually a new report available for sponsored brands, which we call Sponsored Brand Category Benchmark Report. So you can actually download it to see within your category. So for example, within the makeup remover category, what are some of the category benchmarks? Are you above or below it in terms of your sponsored brand campaigns, and how you can optimize behind those as well? So you can actually get a sense of how good you are within your category. So highly encourage our sellers to try these features and remember these quick tips. And then secondly, here we want to kind of essentially take a look at our ads campaign architecture as well as our structure. So when you're launching a new product, what kind of advertising campaigns to run, how to structure it. Like let's hear and let's take a look at how to do it. So please don't be worried for our sellers. Essentially, this slide looks a little bit kind of complicated, but please don't be intimidated by it. This is just an overview, but then essentially I'll kind of essentially take a look at what are some of the kind of ideal campaigns that we take a look at. So of course, number one, we oftentimes take a look at essentially at the beginning when people do kind of product targeting. How do people actually set up the campaign, right? Oftentimes, I'll see that most sellers, for example, they just dump all the keywords, right? Different type of keyword targeting, product targeting, different kind of products that you're selling. You just dump it all into one campaign, one ad group, and then you have, 3 different keywords in broad match, 3 different keywords in phrase match. So this is actually not recommended for our sellers. We highly do not recommend you to essentially do this kind of keyword targeting or campaign structure, because it gives you very confusing results. So essentially, you're not able to optimize to a very deep detail, and you will essentially be unable to set different bidding strategies, different ad placements. Packing too much keywords into one single campaign is also a problem. So we often recommend sellers that do not put more than, for example, 30 keywords into a single ad group within the campaign. You need to ensure that there is enough budget for all your keywords. And again, you don't want to pack too many different, for example, match types. For example, for keyword targeting, that's broad and phrase and exact match. We don't recommend you to lump everything together. Essentially, you won't be able to observe the different effects of your different matching methods. And the architecture is very messy and difficult to optimize. So what should we do, right? In the second case, like some sellers ask me, right, you have one keyword, for example, makeup remover with different matching methods, and then you pack it into one campaign, one ad group. So for example, here I will set up, for example, makeup remover in broad match, makeup remover in phrase match, makeup remover in exact match, right? And then I just dump it into one campaign and I call it my makeup remover keyword campaign. Here, this is okay, but actually not really okay. In this scenario, you can honestly just only control your budget. However, it's not suitable for your products in the growth to mature stage. Again, it gives you very little flexibility. So what should you do, right? Should you only put one word per campaign? That is one specific strategy, but however, for most of our new ASIN, we actually recommend you to do this kind of a structure. So essentially, taking the example of selling makeup removers, I will set up actually multiple different campaigns, right? So I will have one campaign where I have makeup remover, sensitive makeup remover, organic makeup remover, right? That's my proposition. I put that all into broad match. So I will actually call it my broad match makeup remover campaign. And then after that, I will have a second campaign, which is called, a phrase match campaign. So for example, maybe it's Hui Qi organic makeup remover, or Hui Qi, kind of a sensitive skin remover, makeup remover. So that's second kind of ad group in campaign number 2. And then of course, the last one we have, for example, exact match, right? The exact product that you are selling. It could be a makeup remover pad, like cotton pad, for sensitive skin, super long tail keywords that is exactly the product that you're selling. Then you do it in a separate exact match campaign. Why is this good? So this is highly recommended for all my sellers. Essentially, in the starting period, you want to have different bidding strategies for your broad, phrase, and exact keyword campaigns, right? So that you can slowly start to adjust your bids and your budget according to what is working. And the goal here is that for your broad match, it is harvesting keywords, right? What are the keywords that is generating good sales for me? Then I optimize it towards phrase. Then I find slightly longer tail keywords, right? For example, makeup remover is very broad. However, from makeup remover broad match, I find out that, hey, I'm getting a good amount of clicks based on sensitive skin makeup remover. Then I put sensitive skin makeup remover into phrase match, right? And then from sensitive skin phrase match, I can actually find out, hey, people are actually buying sensitive skin makeup remover pads, like cotton pads as well. So that is exact match, right? A super long tail keyword that is exactly what you're selling. And then you put it into exact match. And then essentially you can set different bidding strategies. Most of the time you want to set more bids essentially higher bids and more budgets for exact match because it's long tail hero keywords. And then essentially we want to start to lower a little bit of our budgets for broad match, essentially just keeping it as a running engine for it to harvest more better keywords for you. So here it's helping you to keep your structure clear and convenient so that you can optimize it at different stage later on. So this is actually a recommended, the number 2, second in the middle keyword campaign. This is what we recommend for our sellers. Yeah. Sorry, I hope this is working. Yeah. Yes. So essentially, over here, what we want to do is to ensure that there is, essentially optimal campaign structure, right? So this is an example for our kind of sellers. Essentially, you notice that this example, the seller is actually selling, number 1, a plant fertilizer, and number 2, it is selling indoor plant system. You'll notice that, for example, right, the plant fertilizer is $19, basically $20, right? And then the indoor plant system is $1,000 over, right? It is super not encouraged, number 1, to lump these 2 products together in one single campaign, right? So if, for example, you are already selling plant fertilizers, but you want to introduce selling indoor plant system, it's highly recommended for us to essentially create a whole separate campaign for the indoor plant system. Because of the significant price difference. This is to prevent the Amazon algorithm from being super confused in terms of the type of suggested keywords to give you, the type of suggested bids to give you. And then, of course, you'll notice that once you separate the campaigns differently, you want to separate based on product nature. So you have one campaign for plant fertilizer, one campaign for your indoor plant system. Then number 2, you can take a look at essentially, the impressions, right? You'll notice that essentially, Amazon always kind of like gives more impressions to display your better converting advertised ASIN. So if you've already launched this plant fertilizer for a longer period of time, it's generating a bit more sales already historically. If you lump everything together, they are just going to serve your plant fertilizer. They will not automatically start pushing your indoor plant system. So that's why it's important to separate them into 2 separate campaigns. So it's not, again, right, not encouraged having 2 ASINs with very, very different pricing structure. You will notice that in this scenario, if you lump everything together, you will only get impressions in your plant fertilizer. So this is something we recommend to our sellers. So if you are thinking of introducing a new ASIN, very important, like that the ASIN, if it's very different, right, it's completely different, set up a separate campaign structure to it completely. So that's what we recommend for our sellers. Okay, so what is like essentially, the best new ASIN kind of mix, right, for our sellers? So this is just a guiding point for our sellers, from some of our top seller trainers based in our China team. So this is usually what we recommend when you're trying to actually launch a new ASIN. Of course, once you are more comfortable, you can essentially really adopt all the different ad strategies. But of course, I know most of our sellers start off with sponsored products. So let's just start with sponsored products at the beginning. Over here, of course, we always encourage sellers, to start off with automatic targeting campaign, right? Over here, we actually recommend to our sellers for your new ASIN launch, when you launch SP campaigns, we actually recommend you to, for example, in your automatic targeting campaign, we do fixed bids. So why fixed bids? Essentially, this will help you maintain a bit of your ACoS. And what bid to put? It's to put the medium bid that is suggested by the Amazon recommended bid amount in the ads console while you are setting it up. And over there, you just want to suggest and implement a medium bid or 10% medium bid, especially for close match. So you'll notice that when you are setting up automatic targeting, there are 4 different match types in automatic targeting. There's close match and there's loose match, which is keyword based. And then similar products and complementary products will help you inform of product targeting, right? Subsequent product targeting strategy. And then you'll notice that essentially close match, very related to exact match, right? Here, it's for you to really test, whether your listing copy is relevant, whether or not, very close kind of keywords. For example, the sensitive skin makeup remover cotton pads. Are these exact match keywords generating good results for you? Here, you want to ensure that it's fixed bids in the medium bid. For loose match, it's similar to what we call broad match in manual keyword targeting. Here, the goal is to help you expand your traffic, meaning that you are targeting words like, for example, makeup remover, something much more broader, but it can help you generate more impressions, more new to brand customers, people that are just casually browsing and looking to buy new makeup removers. Here you want to have essentially turn it on essentially and be able to reach these new to brand customers. So here you will want to again implement the fixed bids, but you can actually bid slightly lower than the recommended bid amount. And then of course for the product targeting within automatic targeting, right? Similar products, meaning you're targeting other makeup removers, for example. Again, goal here is to expand your traffic, fixed bids with lower than recommended bid. And then complementary product. Complementary product means that, for example, you are targeting for makeup removers, you're maybe, for example, targeting makeup cleansers or micellar water, for example, right? Other similar related type of complementary makeup removing products. Here again, the goal is to expand for the keyword list. And then here again, the bidding strategy is still fixed bids lower than recommended bid. So here you want to ensure that you launch the automatic campaign, but after that, subsequently, you want to actually ensure that you start allocating more of your budget towards what is working for you. So post the first 2 weeks of launching your automatic campaign, you can start launching a keyword campaign. Download the search term report to find out what keywords are generating good results for you. And then you start putting it into what we recapped earlier, right? We have 1 ad group for broad match, 1 ad group for phrase match, and 1 ad group for exact match, right? So essentially from your loose match, you can start finding what are broad keywords that are working for you. You can put it all under broad match. So makeup remover, micellar water, makeup water, for example, different types of expanding keywords for you to reach new audiences, gain more impressions. Here again, you want to put fixed bids, but then again, we recommend you to put less than your recommended bid. And then of course, subsequently, you want to create a second campaign group or ad group called phrase match. Here again, still with the goal of expanding the keywords as well as your traffic, right? So from makeup remover, you actually get, for example, keywords like organic makeup remover, actual customer people searching for sensitive skin makeup remover, non-harsh makeup remover, slightly longer tail keywords. You can put it into phrase match again to see and assess, whether you're getting more increased traffic with higher click-through rate. This is where you want to start moving it into phrase match. And then over time, you'll notice that you are generating a very solid amount of sales coming from exactly like certain super long tail keywords that are very, very specific to the product you're selling, right? So as I mentioned earlier, you notice that, hey, you're getting a lot of orders from sensitive skin makeup remover cotton pads, for example. Then you want to put it into the exact match keyword campaign. This is the exact search term that people are searching for. It could also be branded keywords, right? For example, it could be Hui Qi brand makeup remover. Certain exact match keywords you want to put into exact match. Here, you want to ensure that you are actually, this is where you're actually generating most of your money, right? It's relevant to you. You get very high click-through rate, very high conversion rate. This is what we usually call the hero keyword list for your exact or your phrase match campaigns. Here, you want to put fixed bids with, essentially put a bid median. So again, recommended bid amount, you compare it versus CPC, and you ensure that it's 10 to 20% higher than the actual recommended bid amount actually. And then of course, the last one is product targeting. I would say, and I often recommend to sellers, product targeting. Oftentimes you want to really find out what are some competing products that you have definite advantage over, and price advantage over, especially if you're a new ASIN. Most of the time you don't have very high ratings and reviews in the beginning phase, which is why we only allocate 10% towards product targeting. So this is essentially kind of roughly our guide point for sponsored products. And then subsequently, if you've noticed that you've starting to get good momentum in terms of your advertising, we recommend sellers to launch sponsored brands, right? So how much, where to start when it comes to sponsored brands? We actually recommend sellers to, basically introduce your best-selling ASIN or your portfolio. Sponsored brands, there is essentially product collection, right? So you can actually introduce your entire portfolio that is selling and essentially start directing traffic to the portfolio or to your ASIN mix to do automatic sponsored product targeting, and you set aside 10% of your total budget behind sponsored products. And then we also highly encourage sellers to use video, right? Video solutions. You'll notice that sponsored brand video occupies a very large space in the middle of the top of search results. So here, sponsored brand video is usually for you to direct traffic towards one single ASIN most of the time, especially if you just launched this new ASIN, right? I just launched this makeup remover. I would encourage sellers to produce a product-led video, so highlighting the features of this new makeup remover and direct traffic to your product detail page. So over here for video, we'll allocate 15% budget to it, because really the goal here is to improve the conversion from the top of search results traffic. And then of course, sponsored display, we use product targeting. Essentially, you want to essentially either defend your ASIN, or you can actually try to take traffic from competing products, right? Similar to product targeting in sponsored products. So SP product targeting, you've defined certain products that you actually see that you get good clicks, you get good orders from. You will want to do the same to sponsored display essentially, and actually just try to grab more traffic from competing products. So this is kind of the recommended kind of bid portfolio mix for essentially our sellers. So we will allocate almost 65% of your budget to sponsored products, 25% budget to sponsored brands, and then 10% to your sponsored display. Right. So how to optimize your ASIN, essentially your ASIN performance, right? As we covered earlier, this is a very quick recap, right? You want to set up separate advertising campaigns for your new products, right? This is the fertilizer versus the indoor plant example. If it's $19 versus $1,000, you'll want to set up completely different campaigns so that it doesn't confuse the Amazon system. Number two, how to structure the advertising group. Number one is the portfolio. This is where you manage your campaign budget and the performance. Then you set up the campaign, right, which is the start and no end date. Is it automatic? Is it manual? You set your budget and your bidding strategy. And then you essentially put your ad group, right? Here you will want to specify the targeting strategy. So we'll want to have different ad groups for broad. So essentially want to do a broad ad group, a phrase match ad group, and an exact match ad group within your keyword campaign, for example. So that's the principle and structure of your advertising as far as how to group basically, and how to structure it so that you don't get confused yourself. And then within your ad group, right, essentially, a few different guide points to our sellers, right? If you've just launched maybe only one product, so you're really only launching makeup removers and nothing else, where to start? Definitely automatic targeting. So essentially, you don't need to complicate things. If you're only selling one item, maybe you're selling a makeup remover that is just 3 different, fragrances, for example. Just do automatic targeting and put the 3 different fragrance makeup removers into that automatic targeting campaign and put the recommended bid. Secondly, similar, right? You have 3 different fragrances. Essentially, you want to see from automatic targeting which is the better selling model. And then after that, you will want to adjust for manual targeting, right? So if you have very significantly different fragrances, so maybe one fragrance is like very floral, one is very fruity, and then the third one is like maybe there is no fragrance, right? It's a completely like sensitive skin variant makeup remover. Maybe you can actually start creating manual campaigns to find the really long tail keywords or the very relevant, precise keywords that is relevant to it. And then essentially put recommended bid. So over here, once you've created testing of the similar products, which product is doing well, oftentimes you want to run the ad campaign for 1 week. Simple as that is to run it minimum for 1 week to take a look at the results. You shouldn't be looking at, for example, like a few hours, right? You just make an adjustment 1 hour ago, then you go and look and see whether there's any changes. So for sponsored products and sponsored brands, usually, the sales is attributed within a 1 week period, meaning someone saw the ad and then within 7 days, if they make a purchase, then they attribute it to your ad, to your advertising as a sale. So why we often encourage sellers to leave your campaign for 1 week before making adjustments is to give it enough time to target different audiences on Amazon. Secondly, you want to optimize the data, right, of the original ad group. So if you see that essentially you want to get more impressions, get more clicks, you want to, of course, increase bids to increase the traffic. Number two, you want to manually constantly add more high-performing keywords, into the manual keyword campaigns towards phrase and then towards exact, for example. And then if you notice in your broad match or your phrase match campaign, there are some keywords that are performing very badly. You're not getting impressions, you're not getting clicks, or you're maybe, for example, getting a lot of clicks, right? But you're not getting any kind of orders for a long period of time. You want to do negative keyword or negative product targeting, for example. And then essentially, we always encourage sellers, right? What is the goal of advertising? Create the manual keyword campaign, and then optimize it towards phrase, optimize it then towards exact, essentially. And then you want to always compare your bid versus CPC to make sure that, you are monitoring the traffic as well as the sales. So beyond this, we subsequently, apart from changing or optimizing the ad group, then we actually encourage sellers in the mature phase, to launch products, right? So essentially, you can consider launching new ASINs once you've reached the mature stage, right? Launching either popular styles or not popular styles, for example. So this is something separate, but essentially for some of our more experienced sellers, you've already been doing all of these steps at the top. You notice that your sales growth has tapered towards a while. Then of course we encourage our more experienced sellers to start launching new products and new ASINs, and then repeat the process again. Yeah. Yes. So as a quick recap, essentially for our sellers today, it's important for you to kind of take a look at your product lifecycle analysis, right, and divide it into the different phases. Why we are talking about this starting and growth period is that we've been getting a lot of sellers that just started selling on Amazon that get very shocked at the high e-cost, and that's all they look at. But essentially, it's normal for the beginning phase of your selling period for it to be a bit higher cost because you just don't have enough ratings and reviews. So we highly encourage sellers to hold on for the first 3 to 9 months of selling, accumulate more impressions and more clicks. And then, of course, once you start getting orders and reviews, you will enter the growth period where essentially you start optimizing your listings. And then essentially, you will start getting the sales and you can start optimizing for your ACoS as well, right? So as we call out here, again, very importantly for new ASIN, you want to expand your traffic and you want to get more impressions for your products. And you want to set up enough budget and increase your advertising bids, basically, and push your products to the top of search placement. And then for the best practice is that, how to actually structure your campaign properly, right? Either you do a one keyword campaign with multiple matching methods, or you put multiple keywords. So for example, makeup remover, organic makeup remover, sensitive skin makeup remover with multiple different matches. in different ad groups, as we covered earlier, how to allocate your budgets across the different type of sponsored ads mix. It will be 65% towards sponsored products, 25% towards sponsored brands, and 10% towards sponsored display. And then, of course, you want to test your products subsequently as well. Yeah. So just as a quick recap for our sellers, right? For sponsored products, you want to start with automatic targeting. And then subsequently from automatic targeting, you want to find out what are your key effective keywords, and you put it into the sponsored product keyword targeting broad campaigns, right? And then once you start targeting a broad campaign, you're getting even more impressions, you're targeting even more people. Then how to optimize from there? Essentially, you can start lowering again your budgets as well as your bids for automatic slowly. Continuously, it generates new effective keywords for you. For example, the sensitive skin makeup remover, you put it into broad and phrase. So essentially, sensitive skin broad match, sensitive skin makeup remover phrase match. You put at $1 bid, for example. And then once you find the super high performing exact keyword, right? So maybe sensitive skin makeup remover cotton pads. And then essentially you want to put it into the manual exact keyword where you are bidding competitively and aggressively for it to help you generate sales. So this is how to structure your sponsored product keyword campaign. Again, I highly recommend our sellers to screenshot as a bit of a recap later on. It's a bit of a repetition to most of our sellers, but in different consumer stage, you actually adopt different kind of product strategy. I won't recap because it's very similar to what we covered earlier. But essentially, just to recap, right, in the awareness phase, you just want to increase your brand and product awareness. Here, like, the quick tip for our sellers is when you are trying to, again, increase impressions, right, it's also recommended for our sellers to try sponsored display, because essentially you want to gain more eyeballs, gain more impressions from people. So you can actually do either views remarketing, meaning people who have viewed your product before with similar product, or you can even make use of Amazon audiences on sponsored display to basically, people with lifestyle interests, right? Maybe beauty lovers or, people who love makeup. There are pre-built audiences on sponsored display for you to target, and then to do product targeting for sponsored display as well. Number two, for consideration, this is where you want to increase like people's purchase intention, right? They're likely to buy again. For sponsored display, again, we highly actually encourage sellers to use views remarketing to your similar products or your categories. And as well as you can select Amazon audiences, there's an on-site customer group, essentially, customer group that is tailored to your product. Again, you can remarket towards them. And again, adopt product targeting strategy to similar products or categories. And then for purchase, once people have already bought your product, right? As I mentioned, for makeup removers, people will finish using it. They want to replenish. It's important for you to remind them. Basically, the ads are there to continuously remind them to purchase. So there is a function within sponsored display called purchase remarketing, meaning you can set a time frame every, for example, every 30 days. That is when people kind of repurchase your product. You can actually set a pre-built campaign for them to retarget your audiences that have previously bought your product before. And then for last, for you to continue loyalty, drive repeat purchase, similar, you do purchase remarketing towards your loyal campaign and your loyal audiences as well. Yeah, so for your advertising strategy, as we mentioned, right, different life cycle ratings. We highly actually recommend the earlier kind of pinpoints. And I will actually pause now to take any questions from our sellers.
Some other resources we have regarding Amazon ads over here. All right, so if you are new, you can also download some guides that we have over here to complement what you earlier on learned from Hui Qi in the session. right? So we have some FAQ regarding Amazon ads, regarding traffic and conversion, etc. All right. And then some of the stuff like remarketing is something that is also covered in some of the topics in the guides over here.